What's up, and welcome to another episode of Black in the Maritimes. I'm Fidel.
I'm Hillary.
I'm Marcus.
I'm Clinton.
And I'm Alon.
And Happy New Year 2021. We're all together like a family.
Yay!
Marcus missed us. Hillary missed us. Hillary, I want you to tell the thing that we have a chat, and you were telling about your dad. I really want you to tell what the hell is happening, because that shit is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Y'all gonna get me kicked out of this house. So I'm gonna whisper y'all, but my father potentially has COVID, and is refusing to get tested. And now my stepmom also has potential symptoms. She's doing the right thing and getting tested. And like, I'm just trying not to move out right now. I'm trying to stay here, but I'm so angry as a human being. And there's nothing else to say. I don't know, the whole thing's been pretty ridiculous, but we'll see what happens, I guess.
Why doesn't he want to get tested?
Couldn't tell you, we stopped speaking.
Wow, like that's some old ass mentality. Like, just go get tested. Anybody, just go fucking get tested. This is not the time to play this shit.
I'm sure it's some kind of like traditional Senegalese mentality in him. For me, like, my main issue was that I can't go to work at Shoppers until he gets a negative, or I had to call public health and they had to tell me basically the way that this is going to work, assuming he's positive. So like, it's just been stressful, but that's fine. I was living stress free for too long, apparently, and God decided 2021 was going to come back for me.
2021, you have started. It has started kind of crazy, but let's do this. So
we will literally be quarantining until my birthday, and like, this isn't how I wanted to turn 27. It's not how I wanted to say goodbye to 26. It's not how any of this was supposed to go, but that's what everyone's been saying since the pandemic started. So still feel grateful. Just looking for applications for a new father. If anyone listening would like to apply,
wow,
looking for new dads.
Wow.
I don't want to say that's daddy issues, but that is daddy issues.
that is
Already
daddy
had
issues.
those. Already had them. It's fine. It's continuing.
Oh my God. So, okay, let's get, now that we're speaking at 2021, let's get to the clusterfuck that is our neighbors of the U.S.
Our big brother, man. Our big brother's going through it.
Bro, I've been all over Facebook, but like, not how you would think, like not scrolling through like people around here. It's like the metal pages, because there's this metal band. I can't remember it right now off the top of my head, but the singer was in. No, sorry, the bass player was one.
Yes, Great White or something like that. Yes,
was one of the rioters, and then another band that claims that they're the most hated band in America. Their singer was there in front of the Capitol shooting a music video at the Capitol, and assured everybody, "Yo, man, like the FBI like checked with me, and like I had a team of people. Like we had a team. We didn't need permits or anything because it was a public gathering. So we just decided to whip out the cameras and start filming."
Okay, so for those of you,
what I meant to say is people have been like, it's hilarious, man. Like, I've never seen a more like petty group in my life. Like, he's not my president. Trump 2024. Trump will always be my president. Fam, history will show and history will tell what a fucking idiot he was. And how shitty he was to the country, especially during a pandemic, with the amount of people that died. That's the thing that I think people are forgetting, is that we're in the middle of a pandemic. So this is in the history books. His presidency is in the history books. This dude got impeached twice.
Well, before you go, let's go from that. Let's take it from the beginning, because I mean, I don't know if you have been living under a whole fucking
Our
rock.
listeners don't know exactly.
No, they have. Like, everybody knows. It's like, it's impossible not to know.
I was talking to a coworker who did not know, and I was like, "What do you mean?
What do you mean? What?"
Okay, let's let Fidel set it up then, for people like your coworker.
It's like, okay, so to start,
That's awesome.
This is like a soap opera. So Donald Trump has been refusing to accept the 2020 election, saying that there has been massive fraud, which is untrue, trying to persuade his own party to overturn the results, which is illegal and undemocratic. And again, Donald Trump has tried everything in the book, from suing people to calling governors. He has done everything to try to somebody to believe them that this was a fraudulent election. We all know it was not, because the way that the U.S. works is a bit of a decentralized system. So the Electoral College was in December, and they already put Joe Biden as the president-elect, which that just seals the deal. That you can't do anything. So the other thing that happens, which is sort of like a confirmation, but it's not really, it's supposed to be something that nobody ever noticed, is that Congress is supposed to vote, and then they just affirm what the Electoral College says. Bear in mind, even if they don't, it's still the same thing. Joe Biden's still president. That doesn't change anything. But it's sort of like it's some politics royalty kind of bullshit. Well, what happened is that Donald Trump had a rally that same day, and he basically said to his supporters to go out and fight. And they actually went and did that. They just rioted Congress, which it's pretty much an invasion of the country. You're invading a country by trying to, kidnap or beat up or whatever happened to the Congress, which has not happened since the English tried to invade the US. That's the only time that has happened. And 5 people were murdered. So that's like a basic, in case you don't know. Everybody knows. So my thing is, Alon is the American here.
I am.
And there's 2 things I'm gonna ask to Alon first, because Alon's the American, and there was not a lot of black people there.
There was though.
There was like maybe 2.
There wasn't 2. There wasn't 2.
was-
No, don't do this. Don't sit there and say that there aren't black people in the States that aren't Trump supporters.
Well, no. That's
Quite
what
a
you're
lot
right.
of them.
Okay, no.
There's quite a lot
Remember,
of them.
let's go by part. Let's not misinform. There are black Trump supporters, but again, we're not saying that Trump supporters are bad. We're saying that the people that rioted Congress, because that's the illegal thing. There's nothing illegal about you being a Trump supporter. There's nothing illegal about you being a Republican. There's nothing illegal about you. Now, there's something illegal of you going to a federal building and trying to kidnap and beat up people and kill. That's the illegal part. So there wasn't a lot of black people in there. There was maybe 1 that we could see.
So the only black person in the Capitol was the Capitol police officer. If you look at all, if you look at all the photos, if you look
Anywhere?
at all,
In the
if you
whole
look on
building?
but if you look on the photos on the outside of the building, when they're all on the stairs, you can see black Trump supporters. But the black Trump supporters are smart enough to know that if we're in there, man, we're black, we will get killed.
So Alon,
They know that.
So let's go to Alon. Alon, what do you see in this as an American? What do you see about this whole thing?
I think, I'll just be very, very matter of fact. There's no black person, any person of color, and even any woman with the brain that did not see this coming. Right? Like, black people and minorities who have been put down and systematically, set aside and shit on, have always been saying this for generations, that white people are fucking crazy, and that if you keep going ahead and catering to this demographic, this is what's going to happen. We've been telling people for years, for decades, generations, that that we have crooked police, that we have crooked Capitol, officers, that we have crooked politicians. We've been saying this forever. There were cops that took the day off to be at that rally. There were off-duty police, off-duty EMS, off-duty nurses, off-duty frontline workers who were at this rally. Black people have been saying forever, especially black women when it comes to healthcare, that doctors have treated them differently, have said racial things to them. So now this, for me, is the proof that black people and people of color needed to validate everything that they've been saying, as if they didn't have enough to validate what they've been saying all this time. When you go ahead and realize that there is no way, if I look at the Capitol building the wrong way, I'm getting shot.
Yep.
How the fuck are you getting into the building? Like, where was all the Secret Service and all these highly trained, military? That the point is that any person of color in the States has been saying this forever and a day, that white people and white privilege is real, that there is corruption at the highest levels. There were senators who were, given the white power sign and cheering on the rioters as they went in to the building. You have Capitol Police who were opening the gates, letting the rioters in. Yep. Like, come on. Like, we've been saying this forever and a day. Yep. So for me, as a person of color, this was not a surprise. Like, white people like, oh my God, the Capitol. I wasn't saying that. I was like, yeah, that's what we've been telling you.
Preach.
We've been telling you this shit for years.
Preach.
And so for me, I don't think any person of color was taken aback by this event, but it just validates everything that we've ever said, especially during the past 4 years, that this man was unstable, his followers were unstable, that the Blue Lives Matter movement was not about blue lives. It was bullshit just to have something to say, to contradict, or try to counteract the Black Lives Matter movement. That's all this was. When you kill a cop, blue lives clearly don't matter.
Fam,
point blank, period.
Let's talk about the flag that they castrated Kaepernick's career over.
Well, that's the thing. So let's go ahead and transition and segue to that. So what? Bill Belichick's dumb white ass wants to go ahead and not take this medal from Trump before he leaves, and wants to take a stance like, oh no, I would never take a medal from a man like Trump. Motherfucker, you were dead center in shitting on Kaepernick and shutting down his career. So now so this is your line in the sand. So a man peacefully protests against black young men that you purposely draft and employ to make you money. You said, no, that has nothing to do with me. I got nothing to say about that. But this man wants to go ahead and give you a medal. And now because of this incident at the Capitol, this riot, this coup, this insurrection, let's call it what it is. Now you want to be like, oh no, I have morals. I have standards. Oh no, I would never. Like, that's what kills me now. It's like, anyone who has ever said anything about Black Lives Matter or, oh no, there's no validity to any of this. It's funny. Either they're really quiet right now. I know my Facebook's real quiet lately.
Yeah.
And now number two, everyone is acting like they had nothing to do with this. Like, they weren't supporting Trump. They weren't supporting his ideologies. They weren't supporting his movements. They weren't supporting his words. They weren't co-signing his lies. Like, I'm sorry, this was not a surprise to me. I hope that they get everyone involved. There's plenty of video, plenty of footage. Get them all. Lock them up and just get it done. And make the statement. That's what needs to happen. Fuck just arresting them. They all need to get charged accordingly, according to Trump's rule. Because Trump made that law for the Black Lives Matter movement, that if you desecrate any federal property, you get a minimum, what is it, of 5 years?
Yep.
They all need to get a minimum of 5 years. Point blank, period.
All of them should be getting 5 years, but I will say, I'll be shocked if any of them get sitting.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
Now we're gonna say this just to, and that's how this conversation started, which I had to interrupt Marcus. There's nothing illegal about you being a Trump supporter. There's nothing illegal about you supporting an ideology. There's nothing illegal about that. You could support anything. That's freedom of speech. That's what it is. You could support. You could talk about what you want. So there's nothing wrong with that. However, once you start a military coup or an insurrection, I think that's when things go left. Now,
no, you're not wrong, but the problem with the Trump fan base is that Trump has always told his supporters to put action behind the beliefs. That's been the problem. It's not just been, okay, you co-sign my ideas, then we're okay. It's always been, you need to take physical action in your daily life to prove a point. Like, he's always alluded to that. He's always said that. That to me, yeah, I agree with you. Yes, in a democratic society, technically, yes, your thoughts and your opinions, you are free to have. But when you have someone who is in a leadership position who is telling you blatantly to act on these things and to be violent against people who don't feel the way you do, that rhetoric is illegal, right? Like, that's inciting a riot, technically, right?
Yeah, that is correct, and that's what we're gonna talk about. Like, and I'm gonna ask this to Hillary. Like, if you guys know, in the summer there was the Black Lives Matter march in Washington, in the same place, and it was filled with Army, National Guard, and stuff. Wait, Marcus, before you get in,
but there's information that you need to know. So at that rally, FBI said that they had prior knowledge of this.
Well, but this is where I'm going, and this is what I'm going to go with that.
But that's why the police and all of that
No,
was
no.
at the rally in DC at the time
But-
for Black Lives Matter was because they had prior knowledge.
No, but this is what happened. This is what I was going to say about that. Yes, that is true. But remember, you have the president of the United States having a rally at that time. You have the most powerful man in the
Mhm.
country having a rally at that time.
Hmm.
There is no way that you weren't going to enforce with the Air Force. There wasn't any enforcement. Like, let's just be clear. And let's just be clear. If this would have been a regular protest, and again, if anybody has done activism before, you know that when you do a rally, a protest, you have to do it to City Hall. That's how it does. It's a municipal thing. So you go to City Hall and you get those things. You got to do some paperwork and things like that. That's what people do. However, when it comes to the president of the United States and in Canada, once a president is going, the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, the National Guard, everybody's aware and everybody's there because they're afraid of somebody trying to, assassinate the president and things like that.
Because it's happened before.
Well, no, and not only that it happens before, but that's the protocol. That is up to the protocol. So the fact is that they could have it. They could have had the National Guard or anywhere like that. But now I'm gonna ask this to Hillary. As a woman and as a Black woman,
Yes.
do you think that if anybody and again, we all know the answer to this, but we're just gonna refresh. Let's just say that if there was Black people doing the same thing, what do you think would have happened?
Everyone's dead. Easy peasy. Everyone's dead. To I think what Marcus was saying, and to your credit, I think that there's no way no one else didn't know this was going to happen. I think everybody knew that this was going to happen. First of all, I think that there purposefully weren't any army guard so that again they could easily walk into the Capitol and do the coup, do the insurrection, clearly. But even if you watch video of the people who stormed the Capitol, they made merch, they flew together. There's so many people who knew that this was going to happen. So there's no way that Washington just didn't know. Mm-hmm. So I refuse to believe that, and I refuse to believe that any person of color would have been dead on the spot if this would have happened, especially considering how many policemen and the army and how many people were involved with every single Black Lives Matter movement over the summer. Not even just in Washington, globally.
And we haven't even mentioned that the FBI found a truck full of bombs parked on the road outside the White House. This was mentioned in a little one-sentence blurb and never again. How are we not making the biggest deal in the world about this? And these people need to be charged.
There was someone had a bunch of zip ties.
Explosives sitting outside the White House. And everybody's like, "Oh, well, they're just angry about the results of the election." Oh,
yeah, but see what that's
that
day.
But
that's historically what has happened though, is when a party is not happy with the results, they do a revolt. That is historically
absolutely.
What
Trump got elected.
That's what
Obama got elected. There's groups of people.
That's what the Civil War. What Hillary's looking at is like, what? What do you mean? That's what Civil War was about.
No,
I'm not looking at you like that.
No.
Okay. I was like, what? What are you looking at?
Like,
no, I agree.
Well, the Civil War was more. The American Civil War was more about property benefits and rights to Black people. There was different things going. Not just one.
But
Civil War was not about Black people. It became about Black people.
Yeah, it started with the Emancipation Proclamation,
which didn't free Black people in the first place. But listen, Clinton, to touch on Clinton's point, this is a clear example of white privilege and white supremacy that exists in democratic society, even here in Canada. The fact that the media is not reporting this properly is a problem. The fact that they are glossing over facts like there was a truck filled with explosives. The fact that they are glossing over that these people killed 5 people inside this building, beat a man with the flag. These are things that if it were any other race of people would be headline news for months. and months and months and
Animals.
months.
Calling
Right?
them
Exactly.
animals,
They would be calling them all types
terrorists.
of derogatory names.
Need to
That's
be
right. Terrorists, animals, immigrants. They would be calling them all
euthanized,
types of names. That's right.
arrested. Yeah.
They would be breaking down their past. There would be Dateline specials, 60 Minutes specials. There would be all types of investigated stories, documentaries up the ass. Listen, this is a perfect example, again, what people of color have been saying, what Black people specifically have been saying forever and a day. These white men were able to do this, and they still are getting painted as caring, passionate Americans, which is completely unfair and completely biased reporting. Like
100%.
point blank period. As far as anyone protesting over an election, listen, white boys protest all the time. Their hockey team loses. They want to fucking loot and fucking turn over cars and set fires. It's ridiculous. It's not like anyone didn't see this shit coming. But the fact is, in a democratic society, you may not like the person that's elected. You go and you like Fidel said, you get a permit and you peacefully march. You wave some banners. You scream with the bullhorn. You know what? That's it. You don't overthrow the Capitol. And the thing is, on the international stage, the U.S. looks like shit. Make America great again. How? We are the laughingstock of the free world. Dictators are looking like, see, this is the reason why you're not fucking free now. Because we give you freedom, this is what you do. And other countries who have the democracy, they're looking at us like, okay, you were our example. Now what do we do? You know what I mean? We've made poor alliances. We've made poor judgments the past 4 years. Like Marcus said earlier, we got a pandemic that, you know what, people can miss me with the numbers bullshit. We had an additional 300,000 people die in the States this year, on top of cancer and car accidents and everything else. So people can miss me with these Facebook posts about, oh, they're hyping the numbers. Listen, we have now hundreds of thousands of more people who were dead on top of the normal numbers. That should alarm you, right? Like the whole thing is that the Trump presidency has done nothing but enabled people who like misdirection, who like to lie, who like to go ahead and make excuses about shit. And this is a very pivotal time in history, I feel, where people of color and Black people need to just stand up like we are here and say, listen, enough is enough. Fuck the bullshit. If you needed any more proof than this, you need to get the fuck out of my face and just get out of here. Because there's no argument now that any white person can give. That's the only good thing about this insurrection, is that there is no more argument and excuses that any white person can give for anything they have to say. Blue Lives Matter, fucking Trump supporting, make it. There's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can say. You
All
guys
lives
have done.
matter too. All
That's
lives
right.
matter. That
That's
was the
right.
other
You've
one.
done
Totally.
you've committed the ultimate treasonous crime on the books. There's nothing else you can say about any minority looting. You can't say anything about, oh, this Black man has a criminal record, that's why he got shot. Like, you can't say shit. You beat someone with a fucking American flag. You can't say anything. Like,
You took down your American flag that
That's
you
right,
ended
and put-
Kaepernick's career over, and
that's
put up
right. And
Trump's
put up
flag.
that's right. Exactly.
I can't say I coin phrased this term, but on CBC today, a guy was talking about how a white guy was talking about how systemic racism. We got to stop using this term. It's not representative. It's this, that. We were like, oh my God, what's he gonna say? But he surprised me. He said, we need to start calling it for what is it? It's not systemic racism. It's systemic white supremacy from the people in power. It kind of blew me away.
What did he say?
It's
What did
not
he
all
say?
white people, but it's people. It's systemic. It's not systemic racism. It's not any culture doing this to any other culture. It's systemic white supremacy. White people did what other cultures had done throughout history and took over the world through savagery and physical violence, and they did a good job of that. It's not a good thing to do, but they did a really good job of it, of colonizing and
we should make
destroying the
merch out
world.
of that. We should make merch out of that.
But here in 2021, like
We should make merch out of that.
the guy was saying, it's systemic white supremacy. We need to call
should make
it
merch
what
out
it
of that.
really is, so that people can look at it for what it is. We could.
I will say we're not
and
putting
it.
we're
Yes, we are.
supremacy on anything
Fuck.
in this podcast. That is not happening here. Nothing
Can
with
I?
supremacy. See, go
White
ahead.
supremacy is not a good term. It's supremacy of the very small amount of white people that have been in power
What-
for hundreds of years. That really, like, honestly, that really control. There is racism, but we're talking about control.
Can we do NY privilege? Can we say that then?
No, We're not doing that.
No.
Step
We're
aside
not,
privilege.
we're not doing that. Okay, so I will say this. Now, I will go to Clinton and Hillary about this. Now, let's just be clear. This is just not in the United States. We got it because it's a clusterfuck. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in Europe. It's happening anywhere. Now, I will say, like, there was just an article of the CBC on the place that we live in, which is New Brunswick, that far-right groups have been on the rise in Atlantic Canada. We just saw this with the fishermen thing in Nova Scotia. We've seen a lot of far-right groups in Facebook and Twitter and things like that. Now, I will go to Clinton first. Now, Clinton, when you see it in Canada, and then what you just bring the points here, saying like it is white supremacies. When you go to places like Toronto or New Brunswick or Halifax or things like that, when it comes to the white supremacy in Canada, do you think it's any different, or do you think it's rising here as well, and it could become what it is in the U.S.?
In Toronto, unless it was so subtle, I was never able to pick up on it. I've never really experienced direct and blatant hateful racism from anyone, any group of people. There's subtle things, like maybe you don't get the job, or maybe someone doesn't treat you the same way and you're not sure why. But is it rising in Canada? It's definitely rising all over the country in the past, even before Trump. It's been rising. There's always been racism in smaller towns, like in New Brunswick. There's always been a lot of racism. You guys know this. It's rising all over the world. Yeah, there's just polarization and hatred and misinformation being spread through social media. That's making it a bigger problem. Heard it said that it's, as bad as it's always been, but from what I've read and what I've researched, it's way worse, and people are getting way more violent. We've really been in this bubble for the past 80 years here in North America, thinking that people will always work things out by talking and diplomatic means, while the rest of the world has not really been like that. Getting worse. That's it.
Hillary, what about you? What do you see, like in Ottawa? You're in Ottawa right now. Like, how do you see that?
Well, I actually want to say something to what Clinton said, because I have like I agree with you, but I have a completely different perspective, just because I got told that I was a nigger who would get bitch slapped my second week working at downtown Toronto Shoppers. So I experienced that firsthand, like while working. So I've had, I would say, like completely different experiences, but at the same time, I got called a nigger standing downtown Ottawa Beaver Tails. So for me, the location doesn't seem to matter. I think that it is getting worse. I think that when you have someone who's as much of an egomaniac as Trump in the forefront of politics for any country, I think it lets all the other like-minded crazies think that they can now get away with it. And I think that's what we saw at the beginning. And that's what we've seen for the whole 4 years, that people with that same mindset now have a platform to speak. They think they have a right to be heard. And like, there is freedom of speech, but now there's a freedom to have hate speech, it seems like. And I think that that's definitely extremely problematic. I think that here, like we briefly talked about at one point, if someone as crazy as like Don Cherry were to become prime minister, I think we could see crazy shit like that happen here too. I don't think it's not happening yet. I don't think we're that far off, like culturally, from America to say that we're better than that and that won't happen here. Like, considering I have a new racist experience every year, I wouldn't be surprised. I hope not.
But hold on, you've been in Ottawa for a year or two, right?
For over a year, yeah.
I haven't lived in Toronto in 11 years. Like, I have never once been called a nigger by anyone who wasn't a friend or didn't mean it as a term of endearment in my life.
So
and I grew up around a ton of white people and a ton of people of other cultures as well. But you experienced that in the past year. So I
experienced being called a nigger at the Beaver Tail stand in 2017. And in 2018, when I was working downtown Toronto, this girl was trying to steal from our store. So I had to follow her around as per my management. And then she basically said to me, as a Black person, you must know how it feels to be followed around the store, assuming that as a Black person, I get accused of theft. Continued.
It was a white girl?
She was like white, redhead, and like very obviously high on something, not to like cast aspersions, but she was not okay. And so I continued to ring her through. she continued to yell at me and essentially said, like, you must know what it's like to be treated like this, you nigger. And then basically said, if I ever see you in the streets, I'm going to slap you across the face, and like started yelling threats at me. Left the store. I complained to my manager. And by the time I came back, she had come back and asked me to serve her, told me I was going to serve her, and that she was going to not steal and like watch me serve her, and this whole like weird racial thing. So I had to like leave the situation.
Oh, I would have taken off my. Oh man, that's not a situation.
That was
You want me in.
2018.
You
That
don't
was
want me in that situation,
2018.
son.
It's
You
just
don't
two
want
of
me in
us
that
with
situation.
stories, right? And everyone has different experiences.
Yeah.
Our two stories can't say whether or not the country's getting worse or not. I think people may or may not have always been as racist, but they're definitely more vocal about it than they used to be.
I
But
agree
in
with
that
that, for
article,
sure.
that article also said that the question I had a few weeks ago about that article said that all of those hate groups that are in New Brunswick or in the Maritimes have like 150 members, because I was asking how many they had. So we got more answers to that, which means that I would say that it is on the rise. If there's 150 members of all of these hate groups, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have the article
now-
right here. I'll tell you guys in a second. Go
Now,
ahead, Fidel.
Marcus, I will ask this: you've been with a black family in St. John your whole life, and you have and you may, you know people. St. John is a small town and things like that. Now, when it comes to that radicalization, have you seen it on your friends or people like that, where it happens in New Brunswick?
Okay, so this is an ironic conversation because I had an experience like 3 weeks ago getting woken up at 8 o'clock in the morning of a guy being like, yo, man, you're supporting a Nazi band. What? What band's this? And then he tells me the band. And then I look up the band. And then I see that like they're all over East Coast music. Like they're pretty popular. It's like, okay, check out their music. I'm like, huh. Look up the lyrics. I'm like, huh. I don't see anything like that. I go check their social media. I'm like, oh, there's not really much in there. So I'm like, man, what are you talking about? Can you give me some context? He's like, man, their drummer's a fucking racist. He's a neo-Nazi. He's part of the Proud Boys. Oh, okay. Thanks for letting me know, man. I won't support them. And then he lost it at me, man. I said, thanks for letting me know. I'm going to unfollow them and let my guys know. And like, we'll make sure we won't play a show with them. He loses it at me, dude. And goes, he goes, how does the podcast think your public? What do you think the public will think? Mr. Black Lives Matter, Mr. Black Podcast. What do you think? I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? That's why your band doesn't play in the city. That's why your band doesn't get any gigs. They're next. What? What? What do you mean they're next? What is happening? It's 8:30 in the morning, fam. What is going on? I'm not even awake yet. Like I don't even know what's happening. Anyway, long story short, come to find out that this band had a drummer, past tense, had they got him the fuck out as soon as they found out what he was about. You know how it is with bands, like Al can attest. Like you put an ad up and then people come in and jam and then you're like, oh, this is great. Then you start playing shows and then you start recording, you start playing shows. And as you're playing shows and you're recording, you're getting to know these people more and more. And then people get more and more comfortable. And then they start saying some ridiculous shit. And then you kind of play it off like, man, nothing, don't worry about it. But then you start seeing the actions and they were like, you got to go, B. Like, you got to go. Like, we're done with this. Kicked him the fuck out. Haven't been with him for a year, fam.
It's a crazy extreme story.
Because the singer messaged me.
I've got some data here. Just 1 second, just to answer.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of data.
Clinton being Jamie over here for us. Thanks, Jamie.
Well, I don't even know who.
You've never seen. Hang on, hold up. You've never watched.
I'll hold on. Yeah.
You never watched Joe Rogan's podcast?
No.
So he's the guy that like Joe has.
I know who he is. Yeah.
He's in the background, and Joe will be like talking with someone.
Oh,
like, Jamie, look that up, and they'll look it up, and he'll put it on like a bigger, like a TV screen, like have like dual monitors going.
It's just from an article that we shared recently. Now, I mean, like, there's a big difference between hateful and racist people and hate-based organizations that actively band together to plan hateful activities and violence and demonstrations and try to somehow suppress people. So it says in Atlantic Canada alone, hate groups that they've been tracking, active extremist groups, surged from about 8 groups with about 4 or 5 active members in 2015 to about 30 different hate groups in 2021 with about 150 active members in each.
Now,
That is
here's
a
my
thousands and thousands % increase.
here's my question. Are they grouping Black Lives Matter in this?
Well,
No,
no,
not at all. No, there's
you
a
sure?
definition. So
Are you
far
sure?
right.
Are you sure? Because man, I asked.
Listen to the definition.
I
Got some more
asked,
data for you.
I asked just because of how we're viewed in the public, man.
These are labeled as far right extremist groups. They're
Okay.
not considered people who simply have conservative values.
Okay.
Someone who has conservative values or even slightly right conservative values or and who follow the law are not being included in these numbers of hate groups. These are people who are on the fringe of society, who take conservative ideologies and to the next level and gravitate towards acts of violence, sort of like what unfolded in Washington. So it's a very specific kind of person that they're tracking. And he even says these numbers are very conservative estimates, 30 groups with 150 members in each, just based on what they can track from like combing the net and stuff like that.
Hang on. Conservative. So he's being generous?
Yes.
Yeah, he's being conservative.
Well,
Yeah.
it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell with
He's
this
saying that
number.
there's actually a lot more. It's a lot.
It's
There's
a
lot
small
more.
guesstimate. There could be more.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, it's hard to tell with this.
That's
But
scary, fam.
I will say this, so we can move on to another topic. I mean, personally, I feel that within Canada, it's pretty much happening on the U.S. The difference with Canada is that since we're smaller and our population has the ability to elect different officials, it doesn't look like it's happening. But if you take a look at the Proud Boys, that's a Canadian group.
Yeah,
Like,
good point. Good point.
The Proud Boys is a Canadian group. And they were in the U.S. If you guys don't know, the guy who founded the Proud Boys, he is the founder of Vice, one of the founders of Vice. There's 3 of them.
Yeah.
One of them, it was the one that founded. So what we see here is that we have an issue. We see it in the U.S. and we pretend that issue is not here, but it is here. The difference is that we don't see it as well because we the difference in places like Toronto, from New Brunswick, it's really, really broadened. And the population is not there. But we definitely think we're gonna have to watch an eye for this because this is here. And
See, but
again,
no, I just want to say I think as an American being an outsider looking in and have lived here, I will say that I don't think the issue is that it's growing so much as I feel Canadians have been whitewashed, brainwashed, taught from a very young age that these microaggressions are just part of being Canadian. I think the fact now that people are realizing that what you may have considered to be a non-racial event or to be a minor event is in fact full-on racism is part of the reason why this is growing and why it's becoming more widespread. Because when you say, because I've heard several guests on the podcast come on and say, oh no, I've never, but I've listened to their stories and I could pick out clearly incidents of racism and bias against them, but they're sitting there point blank saying, oh no, I never. And this is not to say that maybe it never did. And if it didn't happen, then more power to you. I'm just thinking that I feel that maybe the Canadian narrative has just been all these years that, you know what, we're Canada, we're neutral, we're nice. So yeah, nigger, but I got a smile on my face and I got a maple leaf in my hand. I don't mean it like they do in the States. And I think maybe that's part of the problem. And I think now maybe in 2020, 2021, Canadians, with the help of this podcast and other people who are out there fighting the good fight, are now beginning to show people, Canadians, that like, look at the press, look at different things that are happening. When you look at Blaine Higgs talk about certain subjects, this man's race as the day is long. When you look at Dominic Carty say shit, he's race as the day is long. When you see Peter O'Toole, this guy made a comment about vaccines being given to convicts over for frontline workers as to allude that minorities were going to get them before white people in the way his verbiage is. Like, just because it's done in a subtle way and people are not taught to recognize it doesn't mean that is on the uptick. I think it's always been here. We're
So-
just, as people of color, becoming more aware and more cognizant of it.
Well,
Yeah, and I
agree.
know.
Go
Super
ahead, sir,
quick. I'm
please.
sorry. No, I know what I said sounded weird earlier, and I'm not saying I've never experienced racism growing up, but I honestly can't think of blatant intentional racism that I experienced direct to my face ever in Toronto. Because I know as soon as I started visiting the Maritimes, like in like the early 2000s, even 4 times a year, I became instantly aware of the hateful racism.
Oh no, and I totally understand that. I think the question I want to ask you real quick is, if it's not intentional, does that discount it as racism? Just because it's not intentional, if I don't intend to shoot you and I shoot you, you're still dead. Fuck my intentions. You see
Well,
what I'm saying?
I
So if it's
do,
not
I do.
intentional, does
I don't
that
mean
make
like
it
blatant, like
Yeah, but I mean it, just because you're man enough to say, you know what, that wasn't intentional, that was an ignorance thing, that doesn't mean that it wasn't what it is. That's what I'm trying to, that's my point of view.
I gotta keep reflecting on my life, I guess.
no,
I don't, I can't like direct like I hate you.
Go
I don't know you.
meditate.
I don't know you, and I hate you because of your skin color.
But let's
meditate.
Let's make one thing clear. And
Go reflect and meditate.
I do agree with certain things that Alon says, but remember, we also got to remember something, and I have to tell this. Like, I do agree with some points that Alon said, but we also got to remember that we are in a racist system. It's not necessarily the person, but the system as well is not catered to people of color. So when you have somebody that is not aware of racism, it's not aware that the system is pro-white and not pro-black, you have a person that is completely oblivious because the system works for them and doesn't work for the other person. So that's one of the things that we have to be clear about. Would there be racism? Yes, of course, but the system is like that. It's not the problem of the person, it's the system that benefits that person that has the whole narrative. If the person is unaware, is it racist? Yeah, because again, the system is like that. We're not going to say no, but is it the person's fault that is the racist thing? Not necessarily, but yes.
1000%. I don't think I disagree with you.
Yeah,
I don't
Like, we
disagree
get
with
taught
him.
about racism
I agree with him.
way early in school, even if you're not black. Like, we all had to do Black History Month and read To Kill a Mockingbird. As soon as you're aware, if you keep acting out of pocket, that's on you now.
I
That's
agree
on
with
the
that.
No,
system.
he's saying
agree with
saying that like I can give you 100 examples of the system in Toronto being set up to disproportionately affect people of color in a negative way, not give them equal opportunities to get forward. I got lots of examples about that.
There can be
Isn't
examples
that what
of
you're
that,
saying?
but if
Isn't that what you're saying,
Fidel,
Fidel?
Yeah, I'm saying that, and also I'm gonna say what Hillary's
What are you
point,
saying?
just to wrap this on. No, I agree. Like yeah, you probably have a lot of systemic racism issue, but not necessarily with people. But I will say there's something with Hillary that Hillary did get a good point on that. I think the thing with Canada, it's always been here, which is true. But I think the difference is that we don't have a leader that the U.S. had. Like if we had Don Cherry, like she said, going, you will see all the whites coming out and all the people, all the racists and everybody that you didn't know that was like that would come out.
See, but I have to
Yeah, the
disagree.
PPC.
When Stephen Harper was here, listen, Stephen Harper was acting like he was a wannabe Trump. A lot of nonsense came out of the woodwork. Look at Higgs now. A lot of people are feeling empowered because Higgs' racist old ass is up there talking his shit on a regular basis. Like there are individuals now who are in politics who are running off and being, like Marcus says, being reckless about what they're saying and just letting it fly.
The thing that I see the most is how quick these politicians are to act like Trump and be slick at the mouth.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you guys watched today's fucking briefing, but I was ready to if I was in that room, man, I would have just stood up and looked at both of them, man, and I would have told them, who the fuck are you talking to? You're not talking to children. You're talking to grown adults, man. And these people are reckless, man, with what they're saying.
But we're gonna go.
His rhetoric towards that doctor, man. Oh.
Well, we're gonna go to that, but the difference is this, and again, I can tell you this by boiling a third world country. Trump is a banana republic leader. If you are in a third world country, you will know what that is. You will know what kind of leader is Donald Trump. If I was Stephen Harper, I would feel insulted to be compared to Trump.
I will say this.
What's a banana republic leader? Okay.
A banana republic leader.
Go ahead, Mark. Okay.
It's these leaders that are in places like Uganda, Burkina Faso, in places like Bolivia. These are guys that are almost dictators. that they're not smart, they're reckless, they don't give a fuck what they say. Like their words, they think they're like supreme leaders, like North Korea. Trump is that type of leader. Like if we got a guy like to say that Stephen Harper is compared to Trump, Stephen Harper is a diplomatic guy. He would not say some wild shit or do some
No,
crazy, you know.
that's where I have to disagree with you. Just because Stephen Harper is a white North American who's a bit slicker in how he goes about it doesn't mean that he's not on the same tip. Like if the man is going around favoring the 1% and not giving a fuck about the poor and disadvantaged, which happen to be people of color, given the way that the system is set up, like you just said, that's a problem. Just because he's slicker about it than Trump or other people may have been, doesn't mean he's not on the same tip. Just like I'm saying about Higgs and Peter O'Toole and these other guys who are floating around here in New Brunswick. They're on the same tip. Just because they're slicker at it. The thing with Trump, though, is that Trump was a fucking character. He wasn't a career politician. So he didn't have the social graces that other politicians have of being slick. That's why Trump is so obvious.
But when you're a leader, what you say matters. So even if you have etiquette, and that's I think past 5 years, the internet has just thrown etiquette out the window. So if you're racist and you were keeping it polite, people don't do that anymore.
But forget, let's hold on a minute and let's try to finish this up. Like, let's talk about policy. Like a politician was supposed to be a policy. If you look at politicians with regarding to policy, which that's what they do, Donald Trump is awful. He fired so many smart people because, again, politicians are not smart. It's the people around them that are smart. Donald Trump did not know how to manage macroeconomics or things about policy that, again, if you look at I'm not saying could Stephen Harper be like racist? I don't know. We have to ask him. But when we go to policy and things like that, you have to understand that politicians can be racist, can be white supremacists. Like if you go to places like Bulgaria or Hungary, these guys are anti-immigrant. They're like very far life, but they do govern. They make sure that the policies and procedures and everybody, as the economy's fine. Donald Trump just proved with this pandemic that he didn't know how to handle this pandemic. The whole thing just went down. Any politician that would say that, like any guy like that had like a trained policy in politics, would not let this clusterfuck happen like that.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
So I will say, just to break up the tenseness of this conversation, it is great to see Donald Trump literally be like Alonzo Harris and everybody just around to betray him. Everybody's just left, right, and center denouncing him and resigning. But no, all of them, all those politicians that were part of Betsy DeVos and all of them that were part of his administration, all of them need to be held accountable.
Absolutely.
All of them.
All the people denouncing him now, it's sort of too little too late. It's been 4 years that they've been up his ass and supporting him and propagating all the hate speech that he said the whole time.
Yep.
Just because 5 people finally died doesn't erase anything that happened in the last 4 years, doesn't make any of this better.
And that's what people need to remember when it comes to the next round of elections. And they need to remember that now and not forget that. And that's the danger that we said earlier about the media not painting this insurrection and this attempt at a coup for what it really is. These domestic terrorists, this is what happened, and it needs to be reported that way and made that serious so people understand that all trickles down, that whoever supported this from the jump is as guilty for those 5 deaths as anyone else.
Also, we need to take.
I couldn't agree more.
We need to take also not only the politicians, but social media has a lot to be involved in. But that could be a whole different episode because I feel like.
I can't wait for this conversation. I can't wait for that.
They are as guilty about that. But we're gonna move on.
Let's move on. And it's good that I like when we disagree on things. I love when we agree, but we're all allowed to disagree on things. So that's a good part of the podcast too.
I cannot wait till we have the conversation of censorship and social media and banning Trump and what that means.
And that's the thing. Like
I can't wait.
The point of this is like we're all different, but that's the thing with systemic racism. We're all different and we all have different points of view, but we get treated the same because the system is like black. You're black. Oh, well, we don't care what you have. You're just black. We're just gonna put you in this thing together. But that's one of the things that we have to. That's why we have this platform. But going back, we're gonna go with what Alon was saying with Blaine Hicks, and we're gonna go to New Brunswick might be going red. Like the pandemic in Canada is freaking skyrocketing, and Toronto is getting 3,000 cases a day. Saskatchewan is getting more cases than anybody else. Manitoba is going crazy, and New Brunswick it's just announced that it's going red. Uh, what do you guys think about that? I mean, this is going crazy. Now we're gonna start. Alon was saying about Blaine Hicks and Marcus that you saw the report. Like, what do you guys think about this whole pandemic and that we might go to red soon?
Listen, we need to go to red now. Like this whole like reactive reaction to numbers increasing, it's got to go, man. We've been dealing with this for 9 months. You also just put us in red so that we're prepared for this, so that people are at the fuck home. Like there are businesses that are open and there are staff that are open. When you put us in red, they reduce the staff, so therefore you lower the numbers of people and the potential case increase for fucking 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Do it for 3 weeks, and then you're good. You're gonna wait till the number. You're gonna wait till the numbers go up, and then you're gonna keep the kids in school. I don't even have any kids, and I'm fucking insulted that you would tell me that I have to send my kid to fucking the hot zones. Are you kidding me?
I think that New Brunswick, and number one, this proves that Higgs was not responsible for the low numbers in the first place. So any idiot that thought that Higgs was responsible for the low numbers in the first place, this is good for you. Secondly, like Marcus said, we should have been red a long time ago. The only way to get this under control, in my opinion, is to go red and deal with it and get it done.
Why?
Short-term sacrifices for long-term gains.
Exactly.
That's the problem. And when politicians are too busy catering to an old segment of the population, want to bitch and moan and complain about they can't travel, they can't listen. Old people, you're not going anywhere anyway. All right, shut the shit down. And you know what the province needs to do, and what the federal government needs to do, is stop these greedy ass landlords, property managers, telecommunication companies, and all this shit. Listen, if no one's making money, you don't make money. You can't expect people to pay bills. You're raising rents here in New Brunswick and Moncton, just letting it's fucking Wild West right now. So rents are getting increased. Landlords want to complain, oh, I'm making no money. Well, guess what? No one in your fucking building is able to work full-time hours anymore, especially if we go to red. But you still want full rent. Hydro still wants their money. Cell phones still want their money. Rogers still wants their money. You know what? If we're gonna shut it down and deal with this pandemic, everyone suffers. And you know what? If a big fucking corporation goes under, like a small business, then let them go under. But it's not fair to expect working people to pay bills when there's no income. There's no stimulus on the horizon if we go back to red as a country, let alone a province. But I agree with Marcus 100%. The numbers are out of control here in New Brunswick. Shut the shit down. Kids should have never been back in school in the first place. You had the kids learning at home as it was. Let them stay home. There was no reason to put them back in school anyway. That's my opinion.
Well,
but
it was because of the backlash from parents. Oh, my kid, he's going to remember this. Really?
Listen, but the parents
listen, Diana. Your 6-year-old is going to have a lot more time to make more memories.
But the parents had a point, though. The parents are like, well, I got to go make a living, and I can't do it with the kids at home. I feel them on that. But again, if you're keeping parents at home because the line of work they're in with the orange or red restrictions are not allowing them to work, then you either give them money to pay the bills. Like Higgs wants to go ahead and complain because somebody got contact traced back to them going to work when they had symptoms. And he was like, oh, they were irresponsible. Well, you know what? That person wouldn't have gone to work if, one, they didn't fear losing their job for taking time off. No one wants to go to work when they feel sick. And number 3, again, if property managers, mortgages, fucking everything else was frozen, I'd feel a lot better staying home if I felt sick because I knew I wouldn't have those wolves at the door trying to get money from me that I don't have.
Doug, so here's my question: if it were to go that route, Rogers and all of them would also suffer. You do understand that their answer to that would be like, we're fucking turning everything off.
Then let them turn everything fucking off. It doesn't matter to me. You know why? Because public health. Bad. Because public health. Here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. They're not going to. No, it's like they do hydro in the winter. They're not going to turn it off because internet right now is a necessity. We've gotten to the point socially where internet is a necessity. They're not going to shut it off. Rogers is a multi-billion-dollar profit a year company. They're not going to shut shit off. So you go ahead and tack on an extra 6 months or 8 months to the term of a 2-year contract. Who cares? Who cares? Solve the problem now, get everything under control, have a stimulus, and get it done. But this whole back and forth and try to cater to people because they want to go to the store and listen, this is it's getting. I agree with you. It's out of hand here in New Brunswick. We need to shut shit down. But if you're going to shut shit down, you can't expect people who are running small businesses who have a reduced income, people whose hours are getting cut. You can't expect them to keep paying their bills if they don't have hours. You have to put people in situations where they can truly stay the fuck home. And you can't do that when you've got the wolves at the door screaming for money every month. You have to make that decision of, okay, you know what? I have symptoms, but I still got to go to work to get the few hours I can get because I still got to put food on the table.
Okay,
That's the problem for me.
Now, I'm gonna go with that. Like, Clinton, you are a business owner. Now, if it goes to red, this will clearly impact your business because you will probably get shut down. Now, what do you think about this situation, especially as a business owner?
Tons of mixed emotions regarding that, because you see, the first time when we went into the orange phase and they forced salons to close, everyone was really upset about that, and we fought really hard to keep salons open because we felt we could keep people safe, and we still feel that way. And to date, there still hasn't been a single case being traced to a salon anywhere in the Maritimes, and that can change, and that doesn't mean salons aren't safe. But anyways, and then we went back to the next orange phase saying that yes, salons can stay open, but please, 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 every day, everyone stay home, don't go out, don't go anywhere, don't do anything. So then we became that we were open and we were empty. No one was coming. Like, we were really busy, and then we hit orange phase and it was a ghost town. We had services here and there, and I'm trying to keep everyone's working their hours, because if you're allowed to be open, then you can't apply for things like the CRB or EI and stuff like that. So that was a hit to me. Either way, it's going to be a hit to my business. That was a hit to my business because we stayed open, I'm trying to give my employees hours, but people aren't coming in. Now we're in this orange phase. We're doing good. We're still busy. We're not as busy, but it's January anyway, so it's hard to say. It's confusing. It's complicated. A lot of companies and corporations out there, they can take advantage of the Canadian Emergency Rent Subsidy, Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy, which helps businesses depending on what their revenue is this month compared to last year, helps them out with their wages or their rent. And, the more revenue they make, the less they can claim and stuff like that. So there is a bit of a balance. But, you guys, Alon's making amazing points. Like, if this is getting out of control, and if we want to get it out of control, some hard decisions are going to be made. Business owners want to stay open and make money, but they also want to keep people safe. Back in March, right before everything was forced closed, the government was asking salons to close. And a few people did it, a few people didn't want to, but everyone was just checking everyone else's pages to see who was going to voluntarily close, because it has to be fair. You can't let some people make money and have other people not make money. It has to be fair across the board. So the one definite pro and positive to going red all across the board is just to say, fuck it. Like, everyone really stay the fuck home. Nothing's open. Don't do anything. Let's get this virus under control. And then let's go back to orange and see what happens. Clearly right now, over the holidays, people went wild, and that's why we're seeing so many cases. It's hard to say it. It would impact my business. There are certain benefits the federal government will give to help us at least stay open and not close, whereas other businesses might not have access to that. The New Brunswick government isn't offering much, but I don't know. I don't want my business to close. I would be okay with staying home for a couple of weeks, to be honest with you. I could use the time off, forced time off. So I can't do it any other way.
I do want to say this, though, man. It really does bother me that the overall treatment of the local business, the small business in this province, like, it really fucking irks me, man. It really irks me that there's no, like, if you guys are closed, what would you have been making? Let's take the books from last year. Let's match these fucking wages. You can do it. There's money there. That's the thing I don't understand, is why there's not, like, even just money for you guys that are going to close down Clinton. Like, there should be something for you guys. Like, it blows me away that there isn't something set up that way.
Well, there is. The problem is that and I'm gonna go back to with that. The thing about it is that there's two ways. There's a provincial and there's a federal. And I will go with the provincial. That the provincial is not doing anything. They're not doing anything at all, and that's their excuse is that they have no money, so they're giving to the federal. The federal is doing something, but unfortunately, what we call federal, we're talking about the whole country, right? So you have to give and take. But we're gonna go that in a little bit now. Hillary, you are in Ontario, which is like the worst place right now.
Yes.
What do you think about that when it's saying that New Brunswick might go to red, compared to like what the status of Ontario is right now?
I mean, I have like a lot of mixed emotions. My mom is in a nursing home in New Brunswick. When y'all are in orange or red and no one can visit the nursing home, I'm able to FaceTime my mom, which is like a lot better for me personally, because then I get to see her. Otherwise, now the way they've got it set up, a designated support person has to visit my mom and then essentially has to hand my mom a phone. She can't hold the phone. So when you guys are actually good, I can't talk to my mom, which is like a personal struggle. As someone in Ontario, like this week I had a customer, or like I guess last week, I had a customer come in. Yeah.
Can your mom get her own iPad?
No. So the way it works is that like the nursing home has iPads, they have Wi-Fi. They have to be in the room with my mom when they're using the iPad, or they can pass it on to somebody else. Essentially, if I have a designated support person, they're not willing to give the manpower to have somebody in the room with my mom. They want it to be the person I assign to my mom, which is my godmother, which means I lose that availability. She had a tablet. I had it for her, but she wasn't using it because of her fingers. It was very complicated. So long story short, no. That's the answer to that question. What I was going to say is that I had a customer come into Shoppers and she's one of our more high maintenance customers. And as soon as she comes in, she's complaining about how she recently bought 6 Chanel lipsticks and has nowhere to wear them. And I'm just like, yeah, that's the trouble with the pandemic. Like, getting all that for these Zoom calls, but nowhere to go. Then she starts talking about how it's only fatal to the 2%. So I don't understand why we're shutting down the world like this. And I'm like,
I'm at work.
Do you know what 2% of 7 billion people is? Like, that is a very large amount of people. And then I hit her with the straight facts of like,
I would have been like, I'm at work, I'm not having this conversation.
I hit her with the facts that like multiple of my colleagues at that literal location she was standing in have contracted COVID, still have like worsening, like things that are still happening to them since having contracted it. Like, their bodies are not the same. They cannot breathe the same. Their mental health has been affected. Even though they wouldn't show up as a positive case anymore, they're still constantly being affected by this long term more than we know what's going to happen. So I say all that to her, and then she's very much like, I just want this to all be over with and done with. And what I would say to Alon's point is this would be done a lot faster if we'd all suffer now. Like, if we would have started suffering as soon as this happened last January, February, March, we maybe could have had the end of a summer and a fall like normal. If we would have done the same thing as Switzerland and New Zealand and all these other places. Instead, we've been trying to cater to the 1%, to the big box corporations, so that they can still make their money, so that the pharmacy that I work at can still make their money. Like, why is there a cosmetic department open?
But you
Don't
know
get
what?
me
Like,
fired.
listen,
why
like,
is there a cosmetic department open? That's not essential.
But the countries that Hillary just mentioned, they did exactly what I stated earlier. They froze mortgages, they froze car payments, they froze everything, and dealt with the problem at hand. That's what needs to be done. And so I agree with her. We take a, New Brunswick is very good at taking cues from everybody before they make a move. Like Marcus said, we're very reactionary. We're never, we never do anything preemptive. We always are reactionary. So I don't understand why we're not seeing these examples of what works and making it work here.
Well, because we're going to take a cue from federal, and like, if Ontario's like, we're not doing it, but like, the whole thing is just extremely stupid, in my opinion, that we've seen how well it's worked in other countries, like you're saying, and we're still not doing it. And like, to the point of still having, like, I work at a place that still has testers out for people to touch. And part of my daily job is to follow customers around and tell them not to pick up bottles of perfume and put them up to their nose because that's spreading germs, as if that isn't motherfucking common sense. Don't touch stuff. Why are you here? Get your eggs, get your milk, go the fuck home. Why are you shopping for $400 worth of perfume when there's a pandemic? Why are you putting my life at risk? Ah! So angry inside.
Okay, so what I will say,
Mental health issues,
So-
probably.
yeah,
Sorry,
what I
sorry.
will-
Go ahead.
I'm breakdown in
so okay, so what I will say this, in
I
in-
just
in-
Just
go
to
ahead.
get everyone's opinion, right? And for those two.
I like at the end of the day, man, it doesn't make any sense to me that they're not shutting it down. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, do it now. And like, it bothers me that they're like literally like just rolling the dice on your kids, man. Like that kills me. And I'm not even a dad, and that just hurts me, man. Like that hurts my heart. That like, even if we go to red, your kids are still required to go to school. What do you mean?
Well,
The
and-
whole comment section, man, was parents just losing their minds, losing their fucking minds, man.
Well, what I will say this to wrap that up, and we'll say this: there is a very long thing of what capitalism is, and this is capitalism at its finest.
It is.
Unfortunately, we get what we pay for. We like our standard of living of capitalism, but the reason why people are not shutting business down, and for example, corporations are getting millions of dollars instead of putting it to the people, is because it's capitalism. That's what we sign up for. That's in a federal as a country. That's unfortunately that is something that it's we could say whatever we want, but we sign into capitalism. Now, regarding provincially, which is that where we living, I think this is a very, very big flaw of what this government is. I agree. The first time they were lucky. That was what it was. It was just plain luck. We had 10 people and they decided to shut down. They had no data. They had no testing. They had nothing. They were lucky that they got. Now we're realizing that we had the data, we had everything, and they've been trying not to shut down because, again, capitalism. They want to make sure that people get money and money, money, money. However, we live in a poor province that is always saying that we don't have any money. That's what the government says here, which is ridiculous to me to say that. But in a frame, we have to make sure that we hold this government accountable. I think Higgs got praised way too much for something that he was lucky doing, and that got him an election. That's what he wanted. He got that out of it. But now we're seeing the reality that he cares about the bottom dollar of people that have corporations. That's why he doesn't want to shut down. And at this point, he should have shut down 2 weeks ago. That's the date. Like we never had this spike. This is the highest spike that the province has ever had almost a year of this pandemic, and they're still not doing it. So I think we have to take in consideration this for these decisions that they've been taking, and not supporting small businesses, just trying to leave everything to the federal government. I think it's a little bit of a cop-out instead of just facing. Blaine Higgs has been copping out of every single major issue because of COVID. Housing,
the official languages,
business,
everything.
All of it.
Everything.
Cuts, everything. He's been copping out, and that's really.
So I do want to say this, man. Like you know what's gonna happen now.
Well,
you know what's gonna happen. People are gonna start traveling. Like you lock Edmonton down. So what's gonna fucking happen? Everybody from Edmonton is gonna start coming into Moncton to shop, and they're gonna come into St. John and Freddie to shop. That's exactly what's gonna fucking happen, man. You watch.
Well, that's gonna happen, and again, I think to get this done, I think we have to hold our provincial government accountable. I think he's been copping out of every single.
Oh yeah, man, he's been dodging everything like the Matrix, dodging that shit like the Matrix, son.
every single part issue when it comes to housing, economics, small businesses, everything, he's been copping out because of this pandemic, and he hasn't been held accountable for anything.
No, and local MLAs aren't holding him accountable either. I've Dawn Arnold on Instagram giving these weekly reports of Moncton, and she wants to talk like nothing's going on. Oh, there's construction, spikes. The percent of construction is up. Oh, we had X amount of new immigrants. Welcome like no one is holding him accountable. That's the problem.
But
no one wants to go up against this guy.
But that's the
and
thing,
I don't get it.
You need to start smashing her friggin' Instagram comments.
No, hold on.
That's what you need to do.
Let's be fair. And that's the thing that as a society we need to make sure we need to differentiate municipal politics within provincial politics. I understand, but we as an MLA, like the problem is that we gave Blaine Higg an election. He used
No, we didn't do anything. Old white people did. We didn't do shit. Okay, let's make that clear. Yeah. We didn't do a damn thing. Okay, he went ahead and ran a by-election in the middle of a fucking pandemic, and all these old ass. Listen, it wasn't we. It wasn't we.
Marcus went and voted, and I did not vote for fucking any.
Okay, so it wasn't we.
I did vote, but I did not vote. I did not vote. I did not vote for Blaine Higgs. But
I did not vote for Blaine Higgs either.
Yeah, I did not vote for him. But let's just say this: we as a society need to hold our politicians accountable. New Brunswick has been one of the worst governments. He has been able to cop out of everything and anything because of this pandemic. He doesn't talk about any issues that are affecting the province because of this pandemic. And now he's screwing up with this pandemic, and he should have gone to red, but he doesn't. But we need to hold people accountable.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why at the municipal level, that's why I'm saying it should start with the MLA. Why is why is Dawn getting a pass? It needs to start somewhere. And if locally we're saying, listen, this is what the problems are, someone's got to raise a stink about this. Jeanette Petitpas and the rest of them, they need to get their act together.
But that's the thing. That's what we're gonna say. Like, for example, Dawn does not have any ability with the MLAs though. The MLAs do. So yes, you are right. We should hold our MLAs accountable for what's happening because this is a provincial issue. When it comes to Dawn Arnold, if we, snow removal, garbage, things like that, which is a municipal level, yes, we have to hold her accountable for that because she's responsible for that. But when it comes to what's happening in this pandemic, our MLAs and our provincial government is the one that we need to hold accountable. And we are not doing that. The whole society in New Brunswick just gave Blaine Higgs like, oh, you were lucky. Yeah, let's get you 4 years. And now he's just not doing anything.
You got to look at the comment sections, man, of like CBC when they're posting these events, man, when they're posting these things. You guys got to look. It's fucking terrible, man. The amount of people that are just like, thank you, Mr. Higgs. Thank you, Mr. Higgs, for getting us through this. Guys, let's keep the comments positive and let's give it up for Mr. Higgs. Let's give it up for the great honorable Blaine Higgs. Honorable Blaine Higgs. 4 more years, Higgs. Like, man, you guys are fucking idiots, man. All you guys are idiots, and we're all going to pay for it at the end of the day. We're all going to pay for it.
The local economy here in Moncton is average on a good day. Blaine Higgs' lack of leadership, Dawn Arnold's lack of whether you feel that she can raise enough of a stink or not, I still hold her accountable for the city of Moncton and for her territory. To allow this to happen and to allow small business to drop one by one with no support, no type. I mean, you know what? Like we have no industry here to begin with. And you can't have, rhetoric about, we want entrepreneurs, we want small business, but then when you need help, you don't have it. You don't have the support, Yeah. So, for me, Blaine is doing nothing but the status quo. And you know what? It's racially motivated. I'm sorry. The man's diction and the man's wording in every event that he talks about. He does not talk well about people of color or immigrants. He does not talk well about people in need or impoverished. He doesn't talk. He's concerned about the Irving type of people, the old population that has money. That's what he's concerned about. He's not concerned about anybody else. And the fact that he is backing into the shadows on all these important, relevant issues shows that the man isn't a true leader to begin with. And should never been elected.
I think you can hold Arnold or any mayor of any city accountable. If she's a public leader that has the power to influence the thoughts and minds of people, and if she thinks it's important to get a message to Blaine Higgs, she can post things like that and rally the people and
Straight
get
up.
them to
That's right.
contact their
Straight up.
MLAs.
That's right. That's
and
right.
get the MLAs to then talk to Blaine Higgs. So she has the power to rise up public
But that's
opinion
a,
and
Fam,
motivate
imagine-
people to
imagine
email their
just-
MLAs.
Absolutely.
So I
Just imagine
agree.
one of the MLAs hears this and starts tweeting and hashtags it.
But
and I
Dawn
think
has
that's
that
what I'm
power.
saying. I think
So I
we-
agree
we-
with Clinton.
I agree too, because the moment she would tweet that, not even put it on Facebook, man, the moment she would tweet that, every kid in university is going to tweet that. Every millennial is going to retweet that. That shit is going to go New Brunswick viral.
But let's be fair, guys. If we're
I'm
gonna
just
held
saying she
that
has
to
the
the
power, that's all.
like if we're
She
gonna held
definitely
that,
does.
but again, if we're gonna held that to the mayor of Moncton, we should held that to the mayor of Fredericton, the mayor of St. John, the mayor of Edmonton.
Yeah.
What I
We
said,
need to
any
hold. We
city,
need to hold accountable
city,
for
any
in
town.
every city. Like that's what we're trying to get.
I will say,
Hold on.
the amount
Go.
of vocalism that I see on Dominic Cardy's page is
Well, Dominic,
it's
again,
great.
and that's what
It's fucking great, man. And
Like-
he tries to be a troll, man, and they just I love it, man, because New Brunswickers are not putting up with this shit, man. I fucking love it, man. They just destroy them.
we
great.
have to make sure that and that's what we want to make sure for. We have to hold our politicians accountable in each and every level of government, but we also have to make sure which politician in which level of government we have to hold accountable. Like, for example, that's what we think. We need to make sure that Blaine Higgs is accountable. We need to make sure that the MLAs are accountable. We need to make sure that our municipal governments it's accountable. Regarding this pandemic, I will say this. Blaine Higgs has been copping out of racism issues, economical issues, any issue that's important. He's just copping out of it.
So I will back up Clinton. Sorry, Fidel, you're copping out. I just remembered that I will say it. I might get talked to later. I don't know, but I will say this: that Matt talked to they had meetings to discuss how to get systemic racism outlawed, and he dodged it due to COVID.
Yeah,
we will pick up the conversation once it was right around the when he did the first lockdown. The lockdown happened, and he reached out to Matt and told Matt we'll pick up the conversation once we're at a red.
Yeah, he has copped out of every issue.
No conversation, man. He's nowhere's to be found, man.
And that's what we're gonna do. So
I straight up feel like a belly moment, man, where Buddy's eating the banana. It's like, I don't like that shit. Like, I don't like that shit. I don't, man. Don't tell me we're gonna talk. I told Matt, I was like, Matt, if I were you, I would have kicked in his door and started talking to him. I don't give a shit. I would have drove right to fuck Fredericton because he has his license and has a car. I would have drove right to Fredericton. I would have walked right the fuck in, and I'd be like, what's up, man?
He doesn't even.
We're not in red. We're not in red no more.
He lives in Quispamsis. He's not even that far.
What?
Yeah, that's where he lives. He lives in Quispamsis.
Mark's like, I'm taking a bus.
Yeah. I can take a bus. I can.
Yeah. So, anyways,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. We're gonna have to wrap this up because we go a little out of that. So, guys, I know there's a couple of topics that we're gonna have to leave for next week. Which I'm gonna hold Hillary accountable that she's gonna run the next week's show because she had a topic that we're not gonna be able to.
I get to run the whole next week's show. Y'all gonna hate me.
So
what's that called? The takeover?
Yeah, it's gonna be
it's takeover.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I'm
gonna
invested.
Okay, so guys, follow us on Instagram, Facebook,
Cropberry takeover,
Spotify, Black in the Maritimes. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast. Check out all the sections. People are shout out to Marcus with a brand new section. Check out it. It's called Marcus Smoke. What is it called, Marcus?
Marcus Musings.
Marcus
So it's like comic book related, TV related, movie related, black music related. I want to have
culture, you could say. Pop culture, you could say.
Yeah, pop culture. Yep. Al, I definitely want to have you on to talk about Bandcamp because I see you plugging Bandcamp for Echo 7 because it's very cool to see. Very cool to see.
Only Bandcamp. Bandcamp.
So check out.
So I want to have him come on there. But if any of you viewers have questions for me that you're not sure how to ask or that you want to ask, like that would be perfect because I can do a whole segment of where I just answer questions in full detail, like questions that you want to ask your black friend that you are afraid to ask, and I can just answer them.
Wait, hold on. We that's coming. So no, don't do that. We have that coming. So don't do that.
Ask a black guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do that.
Hold on. Let's not do that. That is happening on the pod. We're doing that, but we'll hold on to that. All right. So, guys, thank you for liking us. You guys have any last words? Also, check out On Second Thought Alon, which he has pretty good response this week. So, the next
Which one is up this week? Which one is up?
Soul, the
Soul.
Soul.
Oh, the Soul one. Yeah, yeah.
Well, the other one's coming. Which, oh my God. Well, we'll let people know.
You could do like 3 more based on just like the conversation we had tonight, and I would be invested. I took notes for the teasers that I'm going to make for our TikTok account. If anyone if you follow us on TikTok, and they're all just like Alon giving us heat about what's going on in the world. Like, you're
Wow.
the trend one.
All right, guys.
So it's
So,
gonna be like,
any
fuck,
last words?
shit.
Yeah. Check out my band Sonic Detour.
Check out all our handles. Find us all. Find all the different things we're doing.
Yeah,
Follow
right.
us all. Yeah.
We out here.
All right.
Crapberry. That's
Back
it.
in the Maritimes.
Peace out.